I don't even think David needs one. But
There's breakfast in the front if y'all have nothing.
So you guys feel free to write notes on the back of this if you need to. I was gonna print out the actual thing I worked on, but it didn't work out. But if you guys want if you want copies of like my thing, I can make them for you and bring them Friday night if you guys want to.
Yeah, because you'll do Friday night too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a little challenge at the end of this
I'm out.
that you don't even know that you may or may not partake in.
Good morning.
You can pull it off your watch too.
So if anyone does not know QR codes, anyone unfamiliar QR codes, you just if you have an iPhone or I'm pretty sure Android, you show your camera, like you open your camera app, just point at one of these and a little link will pop up, click the link. Most of these are video tutorials, some are like articles, and one's a movie trailer. Yes?
What's an Android?
Yep. So.
Gold star. What'd you say? Gold star. You need a gold star.
Sorry.
That's all right. So, first question I want to ask everyone is, and no one has to answer, you could if you want, but you probably won't want to, is how many hours a day do you think you're on your phone? So, no one has to answer. We're going to get into that in a little bit.
iPhone tells you if you turn it on.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to all that. So, 1 Peter 5:8, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. It says that he's seeking and he's walking about. But what if he's in your pocket? Can you pray for me, Jeremy?
Lord, thank you so much, Lord, for just the Sunday school lesson, for all the time Danny took to prepare this. Lord, I pray you bless him, help him, and enable him to give out everything that you've put into him. In Jesus' name, amen.
So I thought about like distractions in the Bible, and obviously the big ones show up, right? Eve with the serpent, David, Bathsheba, Samson, Delilah, and Martha with services and stuff. And I started making a lesson plan on all that because I figured that's like, those are the big hitters, right? But it didn't feel right because I think we're all pretty aware of all of those. And there was one story that really always, especially when I wasn't a Christian and being Catholic, you kind of have a glimpse into the Bible and the Christian world. And there was always one story that I never quite understood, but I knew distraction was a part of it. So that I only really want to focus on one story in the beginning. So if you guys could go to Luke 24. And we're going to start in verse 13. Jeremy, if you don't mind, can you read verse 13 to verse 31?
Luke 24:13, you said to verse 31?
Yeah, 13 to 31, please.
And behold, two of them went the same day into a village called Emmaus, which was from Jerusalem about 80 furlongs. And they talked together of all these things which had happened. And it came to pass that while they communed together and reasoned, Jesus himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were holden that they should not know him. And he said unto them, what manner of communications are these that ye have one to another, as ye walk and are sad? And the one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answering, said unto him, art thou only a stranger in Jerusalem, and hast not known the things which are come to pass there in these days? And he said unto them, what things? And they said unto him, concerning Jesus of Nazareth, which was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death, and have crucified him. But we trusted that it had been he which should have redeemed Israel. And beside all this, today is the third day since these things were done. Yea, and a certain woman also of our company made us astonished, which were early at the sepulchre. And when they found not his body, they came, saying that they had also seen a vision of angels, which said that he was alive. And certain of them which were with us went to the sepulchre, and found it even so as the woman had said, but him they saw not. Then he said unto them, O fools, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not Christ to have suffered these things, and to enter into his glory? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. And they drew nigh unto the village, whither they went, and he made as though they would have gone further. But they constrained him, saying, Abide with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is far spent. And he went in to tarry with them. And it came to pass, as he sat with them, he took bread and blessed it and brake and gave to them. And their eyes were opened, and they knew him, and he vanished out of their sight.
Right. So the context of this, just to give you the cliff notes, is that Jesus had already risen from the dead. These people had already heard of that. The two men walking to Emmaus, they meet a stranger. The stranger's Jesus, but they don't recognize him. It's like the very little version of what Jeremy just read. And so I always thought to myself, how can they not recognize Jesus? It just was a question that was super baffling to me. I didn't understand how that was a thing. So verse 16, they talk about their eyes being holden. Holden obviously can mean different things. In this context today, we're going to take it into distraction. And you can see up here, the cause and effect of distraction that we're going to talk about is identity crisis that moves to discontentment, that moves to not living in the moment. And just to touch over this story briefly, the two men, their identity crisis here was that their validation was seemingly gone, right? Jesus had risen from the dead already. They were very unaware of what was going on. Their foundation of faith was gone. Their discontentment was that Jesus asked them why they were sad. So they were obviously a little discontent. They were discouraged, that they were unaware of Jesus' whereabouts. They weren't content with the result that they thought would happen. And they had false expectations of what was going to happen. They were unaware and they weren't really in the know at this point in the story. And then the not living in the moment situation, they were consumed by current events, which you can't blame them for, obviously. And their thoughts, feelings, and attention were elsewhere. Obviously, the biggest thing in the history of the world, Jesus Christ being crucified, risen, you can't blame them for really not living in the moment. And I don't really think we would have probably noticed Jesus at that point anyway. So it's hard to just like zone in on them and say, look at these idiots. How did they not notice him? So I want to throw some digital stats at everyone. People tap, swipe, and click on an average of 2,600 times per day. 31% of smartphone users in the U.S. never turn off their smartphone from the day of purchase to final usage. 86% of smartphone users will check their devices while in conversation with friends and family. 35% of people think of their smartphones when they wake up before thinking of their significant others. Users spend an average of 2 hours and 51 minutes a day on their smartphone. The average Christian reads 30 minutes of their Bible a day, if that. 3 hours a day, so give or take 2 hours, 51 minutes, we'll just round it up for simple sake. 3 hours a day on your phone. Well, does anyone stay awake 21 hours a day? Maybe you do, I don't know. I don't. So 3 hours a day times 7 days in a week, 21 hours a week looking at your smartphone. That is almost a one full day of week that we are on our phones. So essentially, we don't live in a 7-day work week or waking week. We live in a 6-day work week because of your phones. So it begs the question, why are we spending so much time on our phones or devices, tablets, right? Well, I would tell you guys, it's that same triangle. Bradley, can you read 1 Peter 2:9?
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Dustin, sorry to interrupt your bagel.
No, you're good.
Can you read Ephesians 2:10? And Kevin, can you read 2 Corinthians 5:17, please?
1 Peter 2:9.
Yes.
But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light.
Go ahead.
If we can. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works, which God hath before ordained that we should walk in them.
So we're talking about, hold off for one sec, Kevin. So right now we're talking about self-identity. And Christians have to get to the point where we know who we are and what we do and why we're doing it. I know when I got saved, it was definitely a thing of like follow the leader. Like, I'm saved now, I'm going to just look around and see what everyone's doing and kind of blend in. And that's not a good way to do anything. The best way to do things is to ask why. Ask why things are being done this way. Because that builds your foundation. That builds your self-identity. You'll find that whatever you do, if you don't build your own relationship with whatever you're trying to deal with, you're not going to have a very firm foundation. And when I was a Christian, my first few years, I was saved. I don't believe I wasn't saved, but I didn't have any foundation whatsoever. It was just like, whatever these guys do, I'm doing, thumbs up, everything's good. And it was good because I was saved, but like I wanted to be a little more than saved. Kevin, you can go ahead and read 2 Corinthians 5:17.
Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new.
Right, so we see there's like a definite, a severe cut right there. You're nothing of what you were before. So it's a fresh start. It's a fresh start to a new self-identity. Second thing we look at is discontentment. So again, the question is, why are we spending so much time on our phones? So for discontentment, Jeremy, can you read Philippians 4:19? Bradley, can you read 2 Corinthians 12:10? And we'll stop there.
Philippians 4:19 says, but my God shall supply all your need according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus.
And you said 2 Corinthians 12:10?
Yeah.
Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then am I strong.
All right, so that's someone who's talking about being totally content, right? Not only he's not getting what he wants, he's in infirmities, but he's still content. So why are we discontent as Christians? What can be some of the reasons why we're discontent as Christians? We're not satisfied with our current life. I mean, we can speak honestly, I think that's a normal thing nowadays. We're so used to instant gratification as far as how our devices treat us, how we deal with things. And our thing that we also have to tap into to understand this is, where does your validation come from as a Christian? Does it come from likes on Facebook? Does it come from posting things because you want certain sort of self-fulfillment, or does it come from the Bible, right? And I know that's a very black and white situation, but I think if you look deep down, you'll see a lot of that is true. And then again, not living in the moment, Matthew 6:34, take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. And Isaiah 43:18, remember ye are not the former things, neither consider the things of old. So, our thoughts and feelings nowadays are always moving. This is just the way our devices, it's just the way our society has taught us to be. If you watch the news one day, if something's a huge story, chances are it's probably not going to be a huge story the next day. We're just meant to move so quickly from things to things. And that's just not the way a Christian needs to be. A Christian needs to be consistently in the moment, and we'll talk about why in a little bit. So social media stats, which is really the foundation of what I'm going to talk about today. By 2020, 82% of adults were using social media compared to just 5% in 2005. On an average, people will spend 5 years and 4 months of their lifetimes on social media. 98.3% of users access Facebook from mobile devices. 50% of adults in the 18 to 24 age demographic will check their Facebook profile before they do anything else after waking up in the morning. In 2019, approximately 60% of unfaithful marriages start, grow, and are facilitated through social media private messaging. In a study done by Harvard Business between 2012 and 2017, depression in boys increased by 21% and in girls by 50%. By 2015, 92% of teens and young adults owned a smartphone. But as smartphone use increased, so did feelings of depression. A 2017 study of 8th to 12th graders found that high levels of depression symptoms increased by 33% between 2010 and 2017. Also, from 2012 to 2017, the suicide rate for girls in this age group increased by 65%. Child suicide rates increased by up to 150%, and self-harm by girls ages 10 to 14 nearly tripled. Linz, do you want to speak about the girls you have in your...
Sure, yeah, when he was reading that stat to me this morning, I said, yeah, I see it every day, and especially the discontent, especially at such a vulnerable age, any child really, middle schooler or high schooler, they look for validation and look for approval, even as adults sometimes, and so they'll post a picture of when they feel pretty, and they'll get 2 likes, and so they'll say, well, I must not be worth anything, and I must be the ugliest person in the world if I only get 2 likes. So I'm gonna dress more revealing and do like a more revealing dance and see if that gets me more. Their self-worth is found in likes and hearts and comments on social media. So when they don't get that reaction, that's why we're also like, that's my validation. So I need to check it all of the time. Oh, my phone dings. Let me see what somebody has to say about me, or let me see what somebody has to say, about how I look, or whatever, and when they don't get that, they literally feel like they're worth nothing, and, it's such a vulnerable age, and the littlest thing like that, their emotions are very, very real, and a lot of them do. I mean, several students in my class just this year, I've had to deal with them hurting themselves because a boy doesn't like them, or somebody said they were ugly on social media, and so that age group is hard enough without the pressures of social media that when and I would say 95% of my students have phones, and I also would say at least half of them are on medication for anxiety or depression. And that's not how it used to be. When I was in school, nobody was on medication for anxiety, and nobody had phone, and so it could be a lot of factors, but there is one consistent thing that as our, of course, with having a cell phone comes social media, which comes seeing everybody's highlight reel and you comparing it to your, everyday footage, and that's just it's not real life, and it's not healthy for adults, and it's incredibly, obviously by the stats, not healthy for children because they can't handle it. They can't handle not having that validation that needs to be coming from friends in real life, that needs to be coming from the mom and daddy around the dinner table. It doesn't need to be coming from somebody I don't even like at school, who I don't even really care what they say, but yet they're putting me in this position where now I feel like nothing.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was my 2 cents for when we read that stat. It's very true, and I see it every day.
Yeah, and I think the reason I wanted Lindsay to say that is because it's not just, an old bald white guy giving stats. Like, it's a real problem that's happening, and most of us have kids in here, and if your kids are young, if they're under 10 years old, I can't promise you much. I can promise you these problems are not going to get better. They're not going to be 3 years from now, and we're going to be like, man, as a society, we really turned a corner on using our devices. I really enjoy following the tech world. It's one of my huge hobbies, but I promise you, these companies, they don't care about your well-being. Just for this next stat, that's all you need to know. Facebook Incorporated, they own Instagram, WhatsApp. They pretty much own anyone who threatens them. Facebook Incorporated is currently developing an Instagram for Kids app, 13 and under. So that's all you need to know. With advertisements, because they need to make money. 13 and under. And of course, like I said, I follow the tech world, and there's a saying we have in the tech world. No social media platform, any at all, right now, has a tiered paid platform. Which essentially means, which is what we always say, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product, right? There's been so many, and I don't even have time to list it, but there's been infinite studies done of how Facebook, which Instagram is Facebook, but Twitter, anything, TikTok, what's the newer one that just came out? Regardless, they are all selling your information. And everyone here clicks the agreement button because that's what we do. I mean, you have to. You're not going to use it if you don't. And Lindsay you would always say, it's a trade-off. I agree to do this, and they do what they want, right? And that's true, but there also is we have to get to the point, especially as Christians, where we have enough self-respect to not let them do what we want with our information. I mean, yes, they're coming after your tendencies as far as your likes, as far as all that stuff. They're selling it to aggregates. That's why you may get ads that you're like, the one I love is like, I was just talking about that. There's a microphone on there. Well, it is, and not to speak too out of place, but like they are sometimes listening. Not so much those companies, but that's getting past our government, which we'll talk about that right now. Edward Snowden, is anyone familiar with Edward Snowden?
Yeah.
Okay. Edward Snowden said this: businesses that make money by collecting and selling detailed records of private lives were once plainly described as surveillance companies. Their rebranding as social media is the most successful deception since the Department of War became the Department of Defense. So I'm not here to talk about like don't use your device because the people are listening and all that. I believe Edward Snowden, but I still use my device. Like that's, to me, it's just that's a trade-off to me. But in order to understand, like think about if Instagram was a person, if Instagram was your friend, say it manifested in a person, would you be a friend of someone like Instagram? Would you be a friend of someone who constantly took your private information and distributed it to strangers for you? You wouldn't. No one here would. Would you be a friend of someone who every time you were in their presence made you feel like you were either judging yourself or you were judging other people? It sounds like an awful human being. But yet that's, as the stats show, that's who we are as Christians interacting with the majority of the day. Do you see how, like, I get that it's very easy to say, yeah, okay, but I'm not going to make much improvement there. I enjoy it, so I'm going to just do it anyway. But do you see how, and my hope with this is you see how devastating this stuff is to Christians who have a call to do way more than stare at our phones all day. That's my hope for this. And I guess I meant to start the class with this, but I got nervous and forgot to. This isn't like I've arrived. This is something that I struggled with for a really long time in my life and tried to make changes, which I put a lot of them on your papers that I handed out, of things, tools that actually help to limit screen time, limit phone addiction, because it's such a real thing right now. I mean, I know it's in Japan, but in Japan, they're instituting rehabs for technology addiction because there are people who have grown adults who have to wear diapers because they will not get off playing video games. And that's not even funny. That's like, unfortunately sad. Anyway.
Well, and I kind of wanted to say too, with those verses that we kind of highly hit over, I think the whole point that that Danny was trying to get at was, Christians are called to be a peculiar people. We're called to be set aside from the world and be different from the world. And a lot of the times we really don't look that different. Opportunities, I feel like the Lord may possibly be giving us several times in our American lives. We might not even see them because we're not looking. We're not looking around. We're like, so I told Danny, when he was reading those scriptures to me, I just envisioned like anytime I have downtime, if I'm sitting at the doctor's office, or if the line is really long at Walmart, or anytime that there's free time, it's like a natural reaction to just grab your phone and start scrolling. And how many opportunities have I missed to be a blessing, or to get to start a conversation with somebody, because I was involved in my own self like everybody else in the world does. And that's, the Lord calls us to be different and, to be a light, and He gives us opportunities and sets up opportunities for us to do that with people. And if we're not out there with people and talking with people and are awake from our social media or our phones, sometimes it does feel like, like zoned in, like we're zombies to it almost, and if we're like awake to our surroundings and what the Lord may be having for us around us, there's just no telling how many opportunities the Lord may give us if we're more awake and alert to be a blessing or to share the love of Christ.
Yeah, and make no mistake about it, these companies, they don't, like I said, they're not out for your well-being. They, and we'll talk about the documentary that I put on there. It's the very last QR code called The Social Dilemma. And everything I'm trying to say, they say it way more intelligently and better. But these companies have like very high-priced psychologists who work for them, who study what hex color code to use logos in that would make it more addicting. These people know how to. We are not equipped to deal with. If you think you're going to deal with it on your own, you're not. We're not equipped to put down our devices just at bay. Not that we need more, but we can go through it. So the ramifications for social media for Christians. Why does this even matter? Why are we talking about it? Why does it matter? Well, there's a distinct line. Christians, we're meant to be serving others. That's the point of Christianity. That's one of the hugest bullet points, is to serve others. Social media, a complete self-serving destination. Whether we're posting, whether we're commenting, whether we're connecting, we are essentially doing this for our own good, for our own self-gain. Easy gateway to judge others. I don't believe anyone in here, if they say, oh, I go on social media, I've never judged anything or anyone. It is open. It's like saying, I'm going on a diet, but that chocolate cake in the refrigerator, that's staying. Right? You are allowing an opportunity to judge others when you can be gone of that bit. You don't have to feel threatened by that. It's a very easy fix. Self-esteem killer, right? One of my heroes is Fred Rogers, and he has this song. He says, I like you as you are. And I really think God would probably sing the same song after you're saved. Right? We don't have to try to be someone else. I don't have to buy this car because this person has it. And I don't have to do this because this person's doing it. I don't have to buy that device because I don't have to do this because that. The whole point is like, run your own race. Right? We don't need to just always compare and contrast ourselves, because that no one can say like, yeah, I've been comparing and contrasting myself for 10 years and it really got me somewhere. That's not the right way to handle things. And the byproduct of all that is that we feel like completely lousy about ourselves at the end of the day.
There's always going to be somebody who has nicer clothes, who's more beautiful, who has a prettier house. There's always going to be somebody who has all of the things. It's a trap for the devil to just get you constantly in a wheelhouse, to want more, do more, look better, buy more.
Yeah, and not to mention the biggest thing which is the lack of genuine connection with other people. So the whole substitution of one of Facebook's saying at a time was, come here to connect with people. We don't really connect with anyone on Facebook. We use Facebook or Instagram so much that when we see people, we don't really know how to even act, looking people in the eyes. You see, I'm sure all of you see it in your kids, right? My kids have a hard time looking someone in the eye and connecting with someone. And it's like I said, it's only going to get worse. They're not going to, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to bring up, I noticed commercials now because of COVID and social distancing, really trying to sell working at home, connecting with your family, not having to be near them, really selling this now.
So true.
And the kids were looking at me, they go, oh, we go to see Nana and Papa in Alabama because I can video chat with them. I'm like, no, we're going to be going. It's just scary to think kids now are saying connect with your friends, but you don't even have to be there.
Yeah, substituting real moments for convenience.
They're selling it big time.
Yeah, well, they're selling it because they sell their product, number one. And even if they have the best intentions in the world, sometimes you have to go past their intentions and look at the byproduct. What is that ultimately going to do to me or to my family? You know. So why is distraction so harmful to Christians? On a big scale, why are we even talking about this? I believe that distraction suffocates the two major elements of Christianity, which is relationships and with focus. So how do you build a relationship, right? You build it with time, spending time with people. You build it spending energy, exerting energy with people. And you build it with paying attention, giving someone attention, right? So for time, James 4:7, submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee you, right? That it takes time to submit yourself to God. You don't just all of a sudden wake up and say, I'm going to submit myself. No, you need to pray. There's work that needs to be done, and you can't do that work if you're caught up in a situation where you're just in fast forward mode, as the world likes us to be. James 4:8, draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. Again, drawing nigh to God. You don't just wake up every day and say, I'm going to draw nigh to God. That's not how, unless you guys do, and that's fantastic. I don't that way. I don't just wake up and say, I feel close to God today. Unfortunately, that's not how things work for me. I have to study the Bible. I listen to the Bible a lot on my podcast and stuff like that. That helps. Energy, right? Exerting energy. As Christians, we should fill voids as far as when we should live the Christian life with energy. So Romans 12:11, be not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. It's a clear indication of get out, get tired, get exhausted. Instead of your neck hurting from looking at your phone so much, get out, to connect with people, try to make differences in people's life. And then attention, Hebrews 2:1. Therefore we ought to give the more earnest heed to the things which we have learned, lest at any time we shall have let them slip. So again, attention, giving heed to something, right? This isn't a thing where we get into Christianity and we just receive, and we've arrived. We have to do our part to get to a certain place where God wants us to be. So the question is, if that's how you're building a relationship, time, energy, and attention, then my question to everyone in here, including me, is what are we building a relationship with? Right? Where are we spending our time? Where are we exerting energy? And where are we spending our attention? Well, by the statistics, it looks like we're doing a lot of that on our phones. And that's sad. And then focus, right? As a Christian, focus plays a huge role. Studying the Bible, 2 Timothy 2:15, study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth to be ashamed, rightly divided the word of truth. That's not something that you just, again, wake up and do. That's something that takes time. And I'm a big believer in reflection. I think taking time out to think about the past, to learn from what you've done is a big deal, not only as a Christian, but as a human. So Philippians 4:8, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are good, report. If there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. As Christians, we have a specific goal set and attributes of what to think on. I don't believe you're going to find much of that on Instagram or Facebook. And also a thing that ties in with time is that, I'm sure if you guys are getting older, you guys know by now, we can't make more of it, right? We can make more money. We can do a bunch of other stuff. We can't make one more second that only God knows when we're going to leave this earth, and it's our job to manage our time. So finally, why should you want to improve? You may hear all this and be like, whatever, I'm fine. I'm good. I'll handle it. I'll balance it. And maybe you will. I can't, so I need stuff like this. So I think about, well, why should I want to improve? Number one, my kids. I want to improve because of my kids. Proverbs 22:6, we use this all the time for spanking or other stuff, but train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. If my kid sees me on my phone all the time, and Jeremy, there was a quote last service that was said about, remember I turned to you and said, that's a good quote. It's a quote. It's almost like,
Oh yeah, what parents excuse in moderation, children will always abuse in excess.
right. And so I don't see how that's different when it comes to our phone usage. If all my kid sees is me on my phone doing things, he's not gonna grow up and think, that's not okay. I shouldn't be on my phone that much. I mean, our kids probably now are on our own phones a lot. We buy them iPads. It's part of our world. And I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying we need to throw everything in the garbage. But I think any Christian or any human needs to take inventory of how we're spending time and what is helpful to us and what is not helpful to us.
There's also byproducts for excess screen time for children. It sometimes does come in the form of anxiety and anger issues.
Another reason we're set, like Lindsay was saying, we're set to be apart from the world. 1 Peter 2:8, but ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, and a peculiar people. I don't see how we can be peculiar people if we're blending in with the world. And the way we blend in with the world right now is when we're in line at the grocery store, we're on our phone just like they are. We are constantly distracted. We are playing on the same level that the rest of the world is playing on. And I honestly, with all my heart, don't believe that's how it was meant to be. And then finally, and most importantly, the charge, right? We have a charge as Christians. Matthew 24:14, and this is the gospel of the kingdom that shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all the nations, and then shall the end come. Psalms 96:3, declare his glory among the heathen, his wonders among all people. Mark 16:15, and he said unto them, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. So it's not like we're here and we don't have things to do. It's not like we can afford to be on our phones 3-4 hours a day. We really can't, obviously. This isn't a very, all these verses are very basic verses because number one, it's really my knowledge set. But number two, I think it also speaks to God didn't make this hard. These are all very shallow verses that we all have heard 1,000 times.
But sometimes the simple ones are the most difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why we're here. We're not, this is a difficult thing. Skip that. So how can we fix this, right? How can we fix this? Number one, first and foremost, pray to God and ask what would be the best way for you individually to fix it. Just because things work for me, or just because I put some stuff on that paper, that doesn't mean that that's the recipe. God made us all different. I'm a huge believer that we are all very different. And so I would pray to God, ask him, you all know maybe what you may need to improve on. And, everyone is different. I may have an issue with Reddit. Lindsay may have an issue with blank, whatever. Everyone is different. So I would first and foremost pray. Second, with some practical applications, you can start doing time management, right? 38 times in the Bible, it's mentioned to rise early in the morning. That's a lot of verses to mention rise early in the morning. So there's something to that, right? I hate the feeling. One of the ways I start my day off at its worst is when I wake up, my kids are already awake, going crazy, and I already feel like I've lost the day. There's something to be said for waking up early, having Bible time, and it's just like a diet. We don't enjoy eating healthy foods, but how do you feel after? You kind of feel okay, right? You're like, oh, okay, I feel like a human again.
Sad.
Number 3, and this ties into the paper, is be aware of your data. If you have an Android, I'm sorry, but I don't quite know the apps. I'm sure that they're there, but I only have an iPhone, so most of the stuff on that paper is how you can look at things on your iPhone. So there's apps for screen time for kids. Like question I asked in the very beginning, how many hours a day are you on your phone? Well, you can find out right now. You might not want to, but there's a place you can go on your phone to find out exactly right now how many hours that you spend on your phone per day. You can also look at, which is probably a more important stat, what is the first app that you launch what is the very first app you launch the most as soon as you unlock your phone? And I think that's really telling, obviously. Communication limits. Apple has a feature where you can designate certain people you want to talk to at certain times. You know, if I have a certain group chat that doesn't quite make me feel the best about myself, you know, maybe I want to limit that at certain times of the day, right? Stuff like that. It may seem like little ingredients, but we have to take inventory of how things make us feel, because the byproduct will come out. Lifestyle hacks. These are kind of corny, kind of not. Screenless Saturdays. The minimalists, they're people that Jeremy and I follow, and like they're big on like Saturdays, no screens. And I know that sounds like crazy at first, but you can do it. We've all lived with no screens before, so you can definitely do it. No devices at dinner, right? That's like, I mean, we don't really do that, but like as your kids get older, I can see that being a thing where like.
Well, we never have devices at dinner.
Right, but I'm saying like.
Like I said,
Right. Number 5, you can disable social media. You can limit social media to devices that aren't mobile. For a lot of people, that seems to work a lot, where you keep your account, obviously, but you don't have it on your phone. Maybe you have a laptop or a desktop at home, and anytime you want to check in, you can, you know. See, a lot of this isn't like, throw this out the window, you know, this is all straight from hell. A lot of this is, we need to find a healthy balance of all this. These things aren't going away. Like, they're going to be here. Apple, Android, they're doing huge initiatives on AR and VR. It's not going to be in your pocket anymore. It's going to be right in front of you now. You know, that's 5-10 years down the line, but it's on its way, and it's going to be around. Alternatives to social media. So one of the biggest excuses I get all the time is, well, I just use Facebook to document everything, and if I don't have that, I like to document, and I like to get reminders of what I did a year ago. Well, I have the perfect answer for you. There is an app called Day One. It is a strict journaling app. No social media. It's just about you documenting your life. And they're even, like the real smart people, they're even made an export feature that will grab all of your Facebook information or Instagram and lump it into Day One. So they made it really seamless, and you can still document. It's a great app. They don't steal any of your information. You have to pay for it, but like I said, if you're not paying for it, you're probably the product.
that was a big one for me because I have all my like posts from when my kids were born and stuff like that on Facebook that I don't even have on phones anymore, but they'll like capture all that and bring it to me.
Yeah. The last one, which is what I mentioned, the movie, which is the last QR code there, I really would, even if you think everything I'm talking about is stupid and a waste of time, which is fair, you can watch that movie. It's on Netflix, and it's not of people like me. It's people who actually made these platforms, like some of the original designers and coders for Facebook, for Instagram. They are talking about the negative ramifications that these platforms have on people. So if you don't do anything else in this class, I would highly recommend you to watch that hour and 30-minute movie, because, and I think it may change your life, to be honest with you. I did it. So that's basically it. Sorry, it was in fast forward mode. I'm much more of a talker than a speaker. But challenge. You don't have to do it. No one has to do this. I just want to make it really clear, like I'm not telling you to do this, but I think it would be fun on Friday. I'll just put the challenge out to anyone in here. The goal was to say who cannot use social media for a week. But I don't quite think that's me too. But I don't quite think it's the right way to do this. So I've kind of I resculpted it to, why don't we try? And again, you don't have to do this. Try to not use social media for 24 hours, and maybe we can talk about how you felt on Friday. Obviously, the way this really works is you should do it for longer than that. But, you know, I'm not a dictator, and I want to be realistic, so, like, maybe start at 24 hours and see if you can continue, and maybe you can't. And I'm not saying delete it, I'm saying just delete it from your phone. No, don't delete your account. Anyway, does anyone want to take that challenge?
I'll do it.
I'll do
I
it.
don't have like Twitter.
Wow, that's way more than I thought it would be.
So I would include, like, for instance, I don't have Facebook and all the other things, but like YouTube, stuff like that. Like YouTube, Twitter, like stuff like that.
That's up to you guys. Like, that's you guys know what you have a problem
Because I
with.
think
So
what's
it's
going to
not.
work is if you need Facebook, but you're like, yeah, I'll still get all this stuff on Twitter. The cool thing to be able to be avoid of all of social media and then see how you feel. So you're not substituting with other ones. Because what you just leave one, you're just going to abuse in another.
It's true.
Put your phone down. You gotta grab it, put your phone down.
Anyway, that's all I have. I'm sorry if it went really fast. I probably tried to do too much, but
No, that was great.
anyone have any questions or comments? I didn't leave you much time for them, but or I guess we can maybe talk Friday night more
I
about.
wanted to say something, and
Yeah.
I've talked to Jeremy and Hannah about it before, but like you were saying with the whole like social media like increases depression and everything, and like how you were saying like kids at that young age, I was once at that point in high school where I had that like effect because of social media, and I was at the point where I wanted to commit suicide. And luckily my friend came in and she stopped me and everything. And I thank God for doing that. But Jeremy was talking to me about Ava, and like he doesn't know if he wants to send her to middle school and everything. And I was like, honestly, middle school is really not that bad, but freshman year of high school, that's literally what could have killed me. It's you have the kids at school, and then if you have social media, you have it coming right back to home with you. And that can be so like, I don't know, it affected me so much. And there were some parts of social media that did help me, like keeping in touch with my friends that I did have at that point. But having the kids that were constantly saying stuff about me, and it was all over social media, like people were talking about me like constantly, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, my name was like slandered all over there, like that hurt. So social media like did impact me severely in that way, but it also did help me like if Brianna, my friend, never would have showed up, I would have like never known.
Yeah.
So
Well, of course, there's no like fact checkers on social media. Somebody could say something and just run with it, and everybody else
Exactly.
runs with it like wildfire. It's not a healthy.
and it's not like how we were talking last week where my yes is my yes and my no is my no.
Yes.
Like people are like, oh well, you could be lying. Like
Yeah.
And people tend to be a lot more negative on social media than they will be to your face, right?
Exactly.
Like, there's that fear of reproach where now I can say what I want. I can be that evil, demeaning person that I naturally want to be, because that's our human flesh. That's what we want to be. So I'll just be as ugly as I want to be and face no repercussions.
Keyboard courage.
Yeah.
yes.
And there's no getting away from it, like you said. Like
Exactly.
you get it at school, and then you get it all night at home too.
And it's not like you want to just like, I didn't want to just delete my social media and get rid of it, because then I would have really felt alone. Like I would have been like, I have nothing. Because at that age, you're like, your phone, that's where all your friends and everything is for. So
Yeah, all your.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. And one last thing Jeremy told me to say. This, for a disclaimer,
I didn't tell you that.
this is not really in the Bible. It was meant to be a joke.
What?
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. And Friday will be interesting if anyone wants to try that.
There's still bagels if anybody can get me. Very informative. Very informative.
I'm so sorry.